Hello and welcome into Off Topic. Wow, sharing the actual screen right there. There we go. Welcome to Off Topic. I'm Andrew Laird. You can find me as Lairdinho on Sorare. Joined today by NepentheZ, who I feel like everyone's like, where have you been? But obviously, like, you are in front of a camera all the time, but you're not in front of the Sorare cameras. Nep, welcome
Not
back.
anymore. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I like being here.
Do you not like doing the other stuff you've been doing?
I don't, but not because I don't like it, but because I am a literal definition of all in or all out. And if I can't be all in, I don't want to do it at all.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And
How was France?
What's that?
I'm going to ask a question first. Sorry. How was France? This is
It
my
was
show
lovely.
now. Yeah.
It was really, really great. I'm somebody who tends to be a little nervous isn't the right word. It's more like awkward when I don't speak the language of where I am. And it doesn't happen that often. And thankfully, everyone I'm with speaks English as well. And what always gets me with people who don't speak English natively is I find that a lot of them apologize for the fact that they're not like perfectly fluent. And I'm just like, you have no idea how good your English is. And I've always like struggled with other languages. Like I took Spanish when I was in school, and then I took Italian, and neither of them really stuck. And French to me is just a very difficult language to pick up also. And yeah, I just have like, I'm in awe of people who are able to speak different languages. And thankfully, everyone I was with spoke English and obviously French. And so it was easy to, everything was just very easy with them. And so that made the experience much nicer for me. My travel itself was a bit convoluted, and I had to fly through Reykjavik on my way to Paris. And my mother actually, before I left, was like, are you sure that's a good idea? Because they have like volcanoes and you never know what can happen. And I was like, are you crazy? Like, come on. And then literally the day after I got home, this huge volcano erupted. And I was like, oh, all right, Mom, you win. So thankfully that worked out. Charlie said, I went to France and then the French whales sold up. What in the hell did you do to offend them? Who sold up?
Yeah, I was going to ask the same question.
Yeah, Johanneton, no need to apologize. Like if you speak English well enough to apologize in English, you're fine.
Yeah.
That's how I
for English.
Yeah.
In which case, yeah.
It's always good. So does that mean you're like all out on Sorare? Obviously you haven't like sold up and left, but
in terms of creating content, like lineups is literally the extent of what I've got going on. And even then, I used to do this anyway when I was like giving a lot of time to Sorare, make silly mistakes based on other people's opinions and information. And, somebody in stream would be like, oh, I heard the manager and him had a falling out in training. I'm like, right, well, he's out of a lineup then. And then he bags 100. Yeah. But in terms of like my lineups recently, it's like I have every single time I look at like the My Players section on SD, I'm like 100, 100, 100, 100, 99, 99, 98, 97, 92, 94. And I'm like, none of these guys are together in a lineup. And I'm like, this is where it's like, if I just gave it some more attention, I could be really successful with it. And then I look at what Channy and Haber have done with their galleries, and there's just a clear path and it's working for them. And it's not like I'm not winning rewards or that my successes should be compared to their success. We're all on our own journey. But I'm like, there's certain players that I have and certain teams that I've wanted, and I haven't done anything towards like actually cultivating my gallery to be in a better position. And yeah, and I sit here and I'm like, what? Like, why bother? Like, I just set my lineups now as quick as I can, and then hope that it comes good. And more often than not, it doesn't.
Yeah, I think the difficulty, particularly in your case, is that I think it just takes time to figure out what you want to do. And then it takes even more time to actually do it.
Yeah.
And particularly if you don't just want to throw money in, like if you don't want to independently fund a brand new idea. So you have to like sell cards that you have or whatever it is. And I think Chani has done Chani has done like a number of deals, like trades where it's kind of like
It was
feel
terrible.
like
Yeah.
too much there or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden, like it works. And you're like, oh, like you don't see he sees the outcome. And like we just see the path, and we're just like, it's a weird path, man.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's like, hey, I just finished 4th or 5th in All-Star
yeah.
Sorare. And you're like, how'd you do that? And you go back and you're like, oh, that deal that I questioned.
Yeah. Sometimes I think like I can't remember who was talking about selling to bots or what podcast I was listening to or what, but like there are some cards, I get it, that you sell to a bot straight away, like tier 3s, tier 4s that just mean nothing. But in general, if you list a tier 1 or a tier 2 on the market for like 5, 6, 7% lower than floor price, somebody will buy it. Like I found that I just list my cards up and I get the sales. And yet I offered, so what I won a couple of weeks ago, I offered to Basilbot, and he offered me like £260 for the whole lot. And then I sold them all individually for like £420. And I was like, but it took me maybe 3 or 4 days longer. So had I had the 260 ASAP, would I have been able to then buy something that would have gone into a lineup that would have won even more? And that's Chani's mentality, is let me just get what I want as quick as possible because it will have like longer term benefits going forwards. And I respect that because it is working well for him. And every time I look at his lineups, I'm like, you've just got some of the most overpowered teams and full stacks from them.
Looking at his lineups, and I'll be completely honest, my son is the one who tells me. He's like, hey, have you seen Chani's like All-Star? And I'm like, no, but I guess I'll look now. And you look at his lineups and his gallery, and you can see it, and you're just like, I get it. Like, yeah. I understand what your plan is, and it's not going to result in a tier 1 or a star every week, but it has the opportunity to do it in a lot of weeks, and you get it. And it makes me a bit insecure, is not the right word, but I'll use it, of my own gallery, because you would look at my gallery and be like, this guy must have just started because this makes no sense.
Yep. And mine's the same. And I'm looking at my Cap 240 Super Rare for this week, and I have Lovren. I don't know why I bought him. I've got a DMP goalkeeper, but I still feel like I can hit the threshold. But then 3 of my players in the team are all rewards. And whilst you might think that's really cool, it's not, because I would have bought none of them ever.
Yeah.
And so if I had sold those, I might be looking at a Cap 240 team with a goalkeeper instead and actually having a much better chance to win. And yeah, and I think one of the things, there's 2 like really big underlying factors for me not losing interest in Sorare, because it is due to FC24 that I've kind of like stopped giving it as much dedication and attention. But I hate the fact that I got in at the wrong time. And I hate the fact that it's because of the way the reward path has gone and the value now of cards. I hate the fact that even if I win something like All-Star Super Rare, which I've done once, but it's still going to be really difficult to ever do, it wouldn't even make a dent in the deficit of value that I've got in my gallery. And that's frustrating because I feel like I'm like, okay, not everyone can win, but I don't want to be this much down on what I've invested. Like, and so because now, like, one of the big things for me from Sorare is like, if I win even a limited tournament, I could win like a $3,000 Kimmich and like, you know, £1,000 of ETH. How sick is that? Now it's like, if I win a rare tournament, it might only be like a £600 card, like, you know, and I'm like, yeah, I like the big highs, and I love the fact that Sorare enabled me to win something of significant value with skill and investment. And now I think that significant value has been removed. And so I kind of wish that I started now, because now I'd be like, look, I can just farm all of these things at a really good price and over time make back that investment. And so that kind of like, it kind of just like, yeah, turns me away from playing it as well.
It's funny you say that, because it feels similar to something that Sean said. I don't know if it was Monday or whenever, but he said that if he was considering joining now, like this is a game he would want to play with, like where values are now. He's like, I would have started now.
Yeah.
But because he didn't, and because when he started, actually, it wasn't even when he started, but he has experienced the fact that the winner in All-Star Rare could win a $20,000 card. The fact that it's now a maybe $2,000 card, like that downward excitement is a bummer.
Yeah.
And yet he still says, like, I would join the game today. And, actually starting again now doesn't make sense. Like, we've already lost the money.
So yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I have thought about it myself that I feel like I said before, like my gallery just feels like it makes no sense right now. But starting over, like, I would almost have, God, this sounds so arrogant. I almost have too much money if I sold now and started over. Like, I wouldn't want to put that much money in now. But I don't know if that's because I know that prices have declined, and as long as we're above zero, theoretically they can keep declining, or if I don't know where my thought is with that, but the game is just totally different now and than the past 2 years. And I see very few people who are optimistic enough not to think that we got back to those highest of highs, but even just half of those highs would be nice. And it's difficult to see that in any circumstance right now.
Yeah, it is. I do like I like the game. I think for me personally, maybe there's a nuance difference here or there, but I think everything that they've done recently has been brilliant. I think the cash only tournaments have been brilliant. The month-longs have been brilliant. Like the even to the degree of like the special cards on the market, like you see those they spike up a little bit. And wouldn't it be nice to have a portion of those as rewards? So like you could win one of those custom design cards, things like. But overall, like I guess I like entirely agree with Sean. Is like, this is a great time to get into Sorare. Like it's a really, really good place to be. And I do thoroughly enjoy playing the game. Like just as we started here, I was like, oh, Fenerbahce have just kicked off. And 12 minutes in, they're now 1-0 up. Fred's got an assist, so Haber will be happy unless he hasn't put him in a lineup. But I look at that now, and I'm like, I've had this Szymanski since I bought him from the Feyenoord collection last year, and like Fenerbahce are a big team. They dominate in their domestic league.
Yeah.
And yet I haven't bought a single other player to like link up with Szymanski. So, he assists Dzeko so many times. Why don't I just go and get Dzeko? And then I'm like, because I've got this guy and that guy and this guy and that guy, but none of them, like, I've got Danilo for Rangers. He's now injured for like 2 months. And then I've got this guy and it's like, oh, he's in bad form, but he'll come back. And guess what? The guy that I had, Lovric, I think his name was, from Osijek. And he just lost his place in the team. And he was doing great, like really good. And he just lost his place. And I didn't know why. And then I like randomly put him in a lineup last week and he banged like 90 points. And I'm like, right, now is he back? And I'm like, if he is back, surely I should go and get Cactus as well because they combine well in game. But then I'm like, there are only so many tournaments you can play. And I just have too many cards. And that's why what I was saying earlier is like, I've just get all these like 99s and 98s. And some of them aren't even in lineups because I'm like, I just couldn't fit. Like they had a good matchup, but they weren't the premium matchup of the players that I had on offer. And then it's like, then you need that time then to sit there and be like, okay, what do I actually need? What depth do I need? What can I get rid of? And then where do I move with that? Do I move down into limiteds and strengthen limiteds? Do I move up into super rares and strengthen super rares? Or do I just hold a balance until a right card comes along that improves what I've already got? And that takes time.
I recently decided that I'm just going to keep building my balance. And that lasted like 12 minutes. And then I bought 2 super rares and I was like, okay, that was fun. Never mind. It's just like, as prices go down, I think this is like works against people like us because we've seen where the prices have been. So you look at a card and you're like, $200? That card was like 12 grand. And you're like, oh, this looks like a steal. But yeah. I don't know.
It's the same even with just before we go for that question from David. I won a card this past game week, and in my head I was like, "Oh, he's good." Eka, his name is, and I remember him like scoring goals. I was like, "Oh, that's really nice." He's actually he was scoring for Union Saint-Gilloise. Then it looks like he got injured because he spent a long time out, and now he can't get back into the team because his replacement is like smashing it. He was like, even to that degree, in such a short space of time, he was £250 like 3 weeks ago. Now he's like £30 as I've won him. And, you know, we talk about like, would I bought him? No, but should you just take your £30? Like if I would have offered £30 as a reward, would I take it? Probably I would have done. But now I look at him and I'm like, if he gets back in the team, he's going to be worth £250. Or like potentially even 150, 180 or something. Or if he gets a transfer in January because he wants first team minutes or the new season. And so now I'm sitting there like, he's going to be a guy now that I just ride down to zero again. Because even if he gets back in the team, he's going in my teams instead of me going, right, this was the plan. This is what I did. And so here's my request to SD. You know, I've been very good. I would love the ability to put notes on a card so that I can like note him and say like, I won him. I don't like him. If he hits a certain price or above, I want to sell at that price, just so I can have that mental note of when I, you know, thinking about my cards, I suppose.
Yeah, the only like I'm thinking you can put a market tag on it on SD, but there's no like no notification yet of, oh, your price is now. Somebody wants on your price yet.
But even if I could just read it myself, and I could be like, oh, he's actually worth £80 now, and I said when I won him, I'd sell him at 100. Then, like, you know, my own personal, I could just like get a spreadsheet and write my own notes for players, but it would just be easier to see it.
It's barbaric.
Yeah.
Let me go back to this David Taylor question. Sorare has gone for the masses, but as Nep is saying, the game has lost its jackpot element, which is putting off current users and potential new users. Sorare are in a tough predicament. Do you think that, like, I'm convinced that new users don't care what happened yesterday and every day before that.
Yeah, I heard you talking to Sean about that, and maybe get a guy, and it's like, if you join the game today, if you see a Haber or SD show or something, you're like, okay, let me get involved. You don't look and think this would have been $2,000 6 months ago. That's not part. You never look back for that. You just look at what it is now and your journey going forwards.
And I can't understate enough. Struggling with words this morning. But new users, most new users, and when I say most, I mean probably 99%, don't look at historical prices. They don't even know where to look for historical prices. You don't join Sorare and immediately go to Sorare data and say, oh, this card used to be whatever. And so all of the declining prices that we've experienced, most people don't care. And I've talked about this with Surface to Air Missile. And he was like, if somebody's coming in to put thousands of dollars on the platform, they're obviously going to look. And my response was, that one user might look, but we just don't have that many users coming in spending thousands and thousands of dollars. And even if they did look, not that it doesn't matter, but I'm assuming a lot of them will be like, oh, shit's cheap now. And you just buy more of it. Like, you're not, I think there's just, it's almost like it can't possibly go down anymore. And I realize it can. Like, nobody, don't clip that for me, please. But the degree can't. Like a $2,000 limited that's now up $20, that drop cannot happen again. We're not going to start having Sorare pay us to get cards.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I just feel like the price drops, the price drop opinion of new users doesn't exist.
It doesn't. It is interesting as well. Like, I think a lot about, is there a point in time where Sorare is too efficient to easily beat the game? And when we look at thresholds, especially rare 240, I actually think it's, I've stood by this anyway since the dawn of time, but I think it's too easy to win threshold in 240. And if everyone just played 240, surely Sorare would just go bust. But, you know, when that guy made that thread about that on Twitter and Julian's responded being like, you've got your numbers all wrong and stuff. But I'm like, surely and okay, you'll never hit that jackpot scenario. And most people probably keep the money that they win from threshold in Sorare and rebuy and repurpose. But if in some weird world everybody just started withdrawing everything they got and just play 240, surely Sorare would run out of money.
So I haven't actually looked at the data, but I assume that everyone who plays any scarcity plays 240. Like, I don't think that there are that many people who have 4 lineups and none of them are a 240 lineup, whether it's limited or rare, not as much super rare and unique. But so I do think most people play 240 specifically for the threshold. And I think one thing that you kind of you've talked about a lot back in the day when you made content, was that people try to get their, like, the ROI time frame is it's unreasonable and reasonable. That's not something you said, but it's like, it's unreasonable because they want it immediately. Like, I bought $500 worth of cards and I want to win $500 reward this week. But you're like, you can do it in a year. And if you can make all your money back in a year, like, that's really good. And if that's the case, and like you said, if everybody starts winning because they bought their 8 cards and they start withdrawing, that's less money to go, to buy cards in the platform. And it does seem like no business could afford to have, $200,000 just removed every 3 days. Like, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
I don't know where I was going with that.
No, me, like, I it's just something to think about. It's just one of those things where I think, like, is threshold eventually going to disappear? Because it's just not, maybe it is sustainable. Like, the Premier League tournament that they run, maybe we'll have more things like that I'll be more interested in terms of beating. I suppose you're not beating the game there, you are beating some, but maybe they have something like that where it's like, if you hit X points up, the higher the points you get, the bigger the reward you get. And I've always in my mind envisioned it being sponsored by something, so like whatever, like Betfair sponsor a tournament where they give $3 million in prizes, and if you sign up on this code on Betfair, you get 10% off your first deposit. And so there's like some interchangeable ability there, or McDonald's sponsor a tournament and like run a promo through it, and so they kind of like give Sorare the money, or Sorare put ads on their site, so they start generating revenue from ads as well, which would make sense. Google ads make sense. Like, a lot of people generate a lot of revenue from that. I'm surprised Sorare data don't have, or maybe they do, I don't know, I've got premium feature, but the websites we use on FC24, they're just plastered with ads, and people just deal with it because the service that they offer is incredible, that it's worth having 1,000 ads shoved down your throat. But I do, like, in terms of my own personal journey of my aim, I've had lots of like goals with Sorare over the last 2 years, but my aim right now is just to get back to square one, like just get back to 0 and then go again. And one of the things that always gave me a massive passion about playing Sorare was that dream of being like, yeah, if I get a gallery big enough, I can yield enough to live a comfortable life off of this. And now that dream has changed dramatically, and you probably still could, but you have to have like you'll never walk alone level gallery. Like, you need like $1 million, $2 million gallery to be able to pick up 10, 20, 30 grand a month from it. Now it's like, where I was a year ago or 2 years ago, you could have done that with a 10 grand gallery or a 50 grand gallery. Now, you, like, in another year, am I going to be looking at it being like, even $1 million gallery can't yield that much? And so it's like, yeah, it's kind of like, in terms of the actual platform, it's a good in a sense because it's gone back more of an actual game. And it's, somebody asked me on stream the other day, how much do I need to start Sorare? And I was like, you know what, now probably like 30 quid. You could buy a decent team if for 30 quid, play it in the right tournaments and start enjoying your experience. And especially if you do play like the semi promos and stuff, like even like 10 quid, like $10-15, like, and it's appealing to people because it's not that much money if everything disappears. Yeah, but for me, because I've invested so much, I just have this like dark cloud over me playing. And it's like, I start getting the feeling of actually, when one of the reasons why I stopped gambling at casinos was because if I won £100 or £300 or £500, it just didn't bother me. Like it wasn't enough to get the endorphins going. So I started betting a lot, and the risk became far too grand to whatever reward was potentially there. Where it's like, if I won 10 grand, I still probably wouldn't be like overly bothered. But if I lost 10 grand, I would be frustrated. And I feel like that with Sorare now, where I'm like, I'm getting like, when a player gets like a negative decisive, I'm like, oh, I feel like negative emotions, like proper negative emotions, not like, oh, that's unlucky, fuck Sorare, I'm back next week loving life again, but a genuine like frustration that it's not going my way. And it was that unhealthy bond that I had with gambling as to why I stopped gambling. And one of the reasons why I really like Sorare was because it kept giving me those positive endorphins and that positive emotions. And now that's not coming from Sorare. And so now it's like everything in me is like, I need to get back to zero so that I can like get out of this, start again, and play it as a game as it's intended to be played, rather than play it as an investment vehicle.
I had that issue with DFS before I stopped playing with. It was like relief. Winning provided relief and losing just provided misery. And there was no actual enjoyment.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh man, survived that one.
Yeah.
And it was like, it didn't, I'm in a very different boat, I realize, than basically everybody. I think in terms of Sorare, that when I joined, the fact that this is literally my job, like I think obviously I have a significant interest in Sorare being successful so that I can continue to be employed. I'm not like qualified to do anything else. So that's why I just need to keep this going as long as I can. But it is an interesting point that you make. And I think that there are a lot of users who have kind of experienced this downturn, that having the mentality to change from, I'm here, I'm putting in a bunch of money and I'm going to win a lot of money, to I need to get back to zero. Like getting back to zero is not fun.
No.
Like that's not, and it does put kind of additional pressure on every lineup that you put in. Cause like every lineup is trying to get me back to zero. And yeah, that's not fun.
It's true. And the whole race to the bottom feels like that's where it's at right now. And it's the worst pain is like threshold. Like I missed out on 240 super rare threshold this game week that just closed by less than 1 point. Yet at full time in the Tigres game, I was about 50 points ahead of it. And then Guzman lost the clean sheet, then got booked, then got sent off. And I'm like, all you had to do was just either not get sent off or just not get booked. Just get straight red, and I'll be fine. And I genuinely, I found myself sitting there, I spent more time than I care to admit refreshing Sorare and Sorare data, hoping that I'd get a rescore and get the point. And I just sit there and I'm like, what am I doing with my life, man? Like because like that £160 that I would have got back from that threshold is important to me, because I'm like, okay, that's like 16% of £1,000. And I've invested about, give or take £100,000. So that's like 1.6%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or is it 0.16%? 0.16% of my gallery back. And that is a lot. That's like quite a lot. If you're able to consistently get that in as the weeks roll on, that adds up to 5%, 8%, 10%. And before you know it, you're like, okay, I've made a huge dent in what I've achieved here, in what I've spent. And so I'm like, I've found myself really, really, really frustrated that I didn't win £160. And this, like, it does, I sit there and like, I'm generally an overthinker. And I sit there and just think, maybe I should just stop. Maybe I should just sell up and just get it, like, because it's bad for the mental, and like that impacts other areas negatively,
of course,
which are far more valuable than any monetary gain or loss. Like,
yeah, no, I think that makes sense. I've been tracking my threshold lineups.
And you had your spreadsheet, didn't you?
Yeah. So I started tracking it since they changed it to 280. Like moved it from 250 to 280. I've had two scores at I have a 279.24. I have a where's this other one? 278.5. I thought there was another 279.13. Like
very close.
Like that's $600 that I missed by 2 points total. And it's infuriating. Yeah, it's
and so when it comes to playing the game, could you have bought the percentage boost? Would it have made a difference? You know, the actual like upgrade thing, or could you have like obviously in hindsight you could have done and it would have been easy, but was it like an appropriate thing to do to buy a couple of super rares to boost somebody by 1% or 2 where it would have made a difference? Or is it not and it's just bad luck?
I want to think it's bad luck. Yeah, I want to think it's bad luck, but I don't.
Yeah.
I it's like too painful to figure it out.
Yeah.
So I don't even want to do it.
That's fair enough. Yeah.
Sorry, there was where was the comment here? Rikomon said, shouldn't threshold being easy mean prices go up? So it's actually the opposite, that if you only need like 8 cards and those cards are cheap and you can just print $5 or $50 for eternity on those cards, then no, because the idea, I think the idea for threshold is, oh yeah, now you have more money, you can pay more for cards. But nobody's doing that now. Nobody wants to buy cards. And so we're in this period where everyone, it feels, is just accumulating threshold balances.
Yeah.
And that's not really healthy either. I don't know. Like we're basically waiting and trying to accumulate some sort of budget so that when there's this explosion in users that probably will not come in a single bolt, we're all ready.
Yeah.
But it obviously stagnates the market, and that's bad for Sorare. And I don't know what the solution is. Like I didn't buy any new cards for the Premier League competition. And part of that is because I, like, as crazy as it sounds, like I don't really follow the Prem much. It's not a league that interests me, mostly because I don't have that many Premier League cards. Like my Sorare gallery determines which leagues and teams I care about now. And because I don't have a lot of Premier League cards, like I don't care about it. So the engine to get people to spend for new cards didn't apply to me. I didn't want to do it. What do you think if they added the new card requirement to Cap 240?
So first of all, the Premier League thing, it did make prices go up quite a lot. And that's why I didn't buy into it, because I'm like, I'm not overpaying for this.
So it made those cards go up.
Yeah. Yeah, it made those.
And theoretically made other cards go down because people were like, I got to get out of this card so I can go buy my new James Ward.
Yeah. Now, the reason why I didn't buy into it was because I thought it would be hyper competitive, and it wasn't. And that was really surprising to me. Even looking at the game week just gone, the last reward spot had a DNP and a guy with 24 points and only had 351 points. And he got, I don't know, how much is it? It's like $50, $30 or $20 for the rare.
Just for the rare one?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. And 50% captain bonus and such. And I'm like, I look at it now, and as I scroll up, even 142nd through 144th, Jay Fraz is there as well. He might be watching. I know he's in one of the Discords we're in. He's got a DMP goalkeeper, and he still hit that threshold. And so, as like the further I go up, somebody who finished 126th had a DMP as their captain and still hit a reward. And I'm like, I look at this now, and I'm like, oh man, again, I've missed out on this going backwards. And again, this is definitely the worst mentality. But what I said to you before, I'm either all in or all out. And because I've already missed out, I now can't start from here and try and get some of what's left. I'm like, it's all done. I'm not getting involved now.
Wait, why can't you start now?
Because mentally I can't. I'm like, I've already missed like weeks of this. everybody else is prepared. I would have to go and buy some more cards, and I'd have to then, and you know, I'd be like, what if then I don't win anything in these last remaining like 4 weeks or whatever are left? And then I would have been investing more again. And then all of these cards will lose value once this tournament ends. And I'll be sitting there going, well, that was a waste of time. I should have done it from the start, or I just shouldn't have done it at all. And so now, because I didn't do it from the start, I'm on that whole, I'm just not doing it at all mentality.
So do you think that, so if they did it with another league, would you do it right away?
Yeah. Yeah. This is where like the whole, like, I actually like playing the game, but don't have time to play the game, because I would like to start preparing all of, especially the top 5 leagues. I'd like to start preparing those cards in the eventuality that this happens. Even in the, you know, they've got big connection with like the Pro League and such. So even getting some like Pro League cards and stuff, it would be nice to be like, if it comes, great. If it doesn't, I've still got these cool cards I can utilize every week. But again, it just takes time. It takes time to work into that, know who you want, why you want those people. Like even just the research of like, who's going to AFCON, who's, you know, City players are going to be useless for the next couple of weeks because they're at the Club World Cup. Like, you know, so there's a lot that needs to go into it. And both fortunately and unfortunately, because I do enjoy Sorare, FC24 pays my bills. So I got to give it way more time than Sorare.
I mean, I think a lot of people, you actually have an interesting situation where your job doesn't allow for you to be on Sorare and Sorare data all day, whereas a lot of people have jobs that are perfectly content having them just mess around all day.
Where was I can't remember what else you asked at the end of there, but I went to the Premier League thing. There was a question that you asked.
What about the idea of requiring new season cards in Cap 240?
I don't like it.
What if it was just one? Like, I think with the issue that we have ultimately is that we all know that Sorare survive by people buying new cards. Like that's no matter what else they do in terms of revenue streams, selling cards is what they have to do. And so they had a tournament that required new cards and I bought none of them. You bought none of them, at least for that competition. And if you required a new season card for your most expensive tournament, because they pay out more in 240, you know, in the 4 240s than anywhere else. Does that?
I would probably just use the cards that I've got from just having them naturally or winning them, and then build my team around that one, or if maybe they made it 2 players, rather than actually going out and actively buying new season cards. But even on that note, it's like there's so many cards are so cheap right now, like so cheap. Other than the goalkeeper, and even goalkeepers now, like we're seeing rare goalkeepers at the price that we thought limited goalkeepers were reasonably affordable at just like a year or a year and a half ago. You know, like a rare goalkeeper now for like £200 that plays actively and doesn't score very well is perfect for your 240. Because if they hit that clean sheet or that penalty save or something, you're having a great time. And if they don't, you only expected 35 from them. And with the outfielders, I mean, you can literally get playing outfielders for like $5 now, rare. And so if you like, I genuinely think like $400 is like a really, really, really healthy amount to have a very strong 240 collection, like selection of players and such. And that's only 8 thresholds. And you have all the time in the world to get there. Sorry, 10 thresholds, maybe. No, maybe 8. It's like, it depends on the ETH. And like, but yeah, like 8 to 10 thresholds. And you've got all the time in the world for it. And if you just happen to hit a card along the way as well, it's even better still. And that's where I think, okay, maybe that whole like jackpot scenario has disappeared. But the ability to actually farm this game is really, really there. And it's just not enough to pay back my quote unquote debt into Sorare.
So are you focusing now heavily on the threshold because it's the most tangible way to get back to zero?
Yeah. I do my 240 in every division first, and then I put all my other lineups out.
And do you hold that money?
Well, I was. I got to like over £1,000, but it was split between ETH and cash because I sold a few cards that I'd won and whatnot. And then I was like, oh, Frankie de Jong's back. And, I've got Gundogan, I've got Joao Felix rare, I've got Joao Cancelo rare, I've got Ter Stegen rare. I was like, let me just get Frankie because I was watching their games and I'd look back through a few other games and Gundogan doesn't get on the ball much. Like they just play around him or he's just used in a different manner in the game. And so I was like, a de Jong came up for £315 and it's the same collection as what I've got Ter Stegen in. And my Ter Stegen's already on like level 17 or level 18. So I'm like, okay, maybe I can get some pieces here and get these guys up to like a good healthy like 14-15% like each. Yep. And that was fine. And so I spent £315 on de Jong. And then one of the brand new season cards sold on auction for £270. And I'm like, I literally like almost sniped him for cheaper than anything he's been going for. And now he's like another like £40 cheaper. And so now I'm sitting there going, fuck's sakes, like I've missed, like maybe I haven't missed out because he was suspended the next game and I knew he was going to be suspended. But I also spent some money on a bundle. I bought a Torino bundle because they had a super rare in that plays for them regularly. And I paid like £109 for the bundle. And I got 2 under-23s that are in and out of the team, a super rare that's in the team, and a couple of other cards. And I'm like, surely I could just sell this bundle for more than what I bought it for. But I haven't even tried because I'm like, this Lanetti, he's actually got a lot of games coming up and he's got a really low L15 and he hits 40 to 50 points all the time. So he's probably going to be in my Cap 240 super rare teams over the winter break until I get like the Mexicans and Americans back.
Yep. Do you think it's bad for Sorare that all we think about is thresholds?
Yeah, I do. I think it depends on why you joined, right? Like I get asked all the time on stream, do you play FPL? Like, no, FPL is terrible. Like, I love FPL. In fact, I did like a Sidemen event a couple of weeks ago, and a couple of the guys there, they are talking about their FPL teams, about this site that they use to check like there's like a color coded system for like players they should swap in and swap them out. And I'm just sitting there thinking, you are doing this for nothing, like because you get the enjoyment of you beat your friends in your group, or in it, like there's no actual gain. And so I do think that people can play Sorare for that reason as well. It's almost like a gift and a curse that money becomes a part of the process, right? Because for the people that would just want to play Sorare because they just love playing Sorare, that carrot on the stick, maybe it's like, oh, well, I'm not gonna, I don't know. Maybe it has gives them like a negative sentiment towards Sorare because the money's there and they don't get the enjoyment.
So I think the interesting thing for me that I had thought about recently is Sorare, like you don't buy all your cards at once. But if somebody told you, hey, I have this game where you can win money, but you just need to put $5,000 in up front, but you can play forever, would you play it? People would be like, no, like, of course not. But that is kind of what they're asking us to do. I mean, 5, whatever the number is, whatever the number you think is the number, multiply that by 5 or 10 when you realistically think of how much you would put in the time that you play Sorare. And if you just put that all in up front, that's what you're spending. And like nobody would play if that was the case.
Yeah. It's true.
A few people have been asking about whether you've considered unique threshold yet.
No. Like I was looking at Gabriel Martinelli super rare today, and I was like, his last couple of sales have been like 1,200, 1,600, and he's currently like, there was like £1,000 bid on him.
Super rare?
Yeah, for his super rare. And I'm like I love Martinelli, and his scores are reasonable and would be very good for 240, especially with the new things coming in, like where you need to get, what is it, 320 now or whatever, for the points. Let me go and have a look at his cards on offer again. Yeah, so it's like £1,100 the bid now with like 4 hours to go. And I'm like, oh, that's a nice price. That is a nice price. And even if I got in for like 12, 13, maybe 1,400. But then I'm like, I'm then another 12, 13, 400, 1,400 in with nothing coming back. And Martinelli's like I have him because he's an Arsenal player, not this guy is insane. Like I could probably go and buy like 3 super rares that score as equally well as him for that price.
You could probably get 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah, exactly. And so like in terms of like going up to unique 240, the investment needed, whether it be financial or time, is just too great, because I can probably, not even probably, if I just shaved off the bottom like 20% of my gallery of shit cards that I never use and serve no real purpose, I could probably afford a unique 240 team. I think you can use like 2 super rares as well, right? Or is it just 1 now?
It is. No, it's 0.
Oh, it's changed all the way. Yeah. So
no, I'm sorry. No. It is. I think it's still 1. Sorry. I was thinking of All-Star was supposed to go to 0 and never did.
Okay. So I would still probably get a DMP goalkeeper and then have a super rare that is more of a premium priority matchup, and then 3, like maybe like a handful of uniques that I'd rotate between. But it's like the risk with uniques is so great. Like I bought Maziz off of Zima, and Maziz has already won me with his points alone more than what I paid for him for, but I can't get rid of him, even though he had he had a good move to Louvain, and he's been in and out of the team. I think he's been suffering with like illnesses and like in a small injury issue and stuff, because he was performing really well, and I just can't get rid of him. Like I offered him to Basilbot and he just rejected the offer. He just doesn't even want to buy him, and I'm like imagine if you buy a handful of uniques and 2 of them get injured or suspended or something goes wrong. Now you have to invest even more. And if you're not hitting that threshold, it's a massive, massive like misstep. And then in terms of like, I think somebody asked about restructuring a gallery before, like the limiters that I've got, according to Sorare data, which I think for limiters is probably like reasonably accurate.
Yeah.
It's £1,800. And I'm like, I don't pay any attention to limiteds anymore. It is just like, you know, when you've got people like Gator Guy going and scouting those AAA guys, picking them up, like everybody's getting wild scores. I got a wild score in limited a couple of weekends ago, and I think I got a tier 5. And I'm like, in fact, even in this game week that just finished here, 3-4-3, I got 412 points in under 23 rare. Where do you think I finished?
It's probably a tier 4.
It was a tier 3, but it was 61st, 412 points. In All-Star Rare Plus, I got 409 points and got a tier 2. Yeah. And it's like, in Challenger Europe Rare, I got 405 points and got a tier 3. And I'm like, I'm getting insane points. And I'm getting like mid-range rewards. Like I think 412 points is like a lot of points, right? Like it wasn't too many moons ago that was winning divisions. Obviously a lot's changed since then. Let me see if I can find this limited reward that I got. Might not have been. Oh yeah, there we go. It's cap 270, mind you, so it's a bit different. But 360 points for a tier 4. I'm like, that's just too many points for a card that is worth nothing. Like you know, you're lucky if you can get like 30p for it. And so I'm like, not that anything is ever beneath me, so to speak, but I just think it's just a waste of time playing limiteds unless you're only playing limiteds, or unless you're on that journey just up to rares, because you need a significant investment of time or money, and then the returns are just atrocious.
So I think the people who are the most down on limiteds are those who play other scarcities. And I think the people that play limited and only play limited have a realistic expectation of success, that they don't expect to win great cards every week, or they're winning a $12 card or a $6 card is great for them because they don't have other lineups that are winning $60 cards or $600 cards. And so I do feel like those of us who play other scarcities and don't focus on limiteds much have a different opinion than people who only play limiteds. And like you said, like winning a $3 card doesn't move the needle for you, but for other people, it's not even about the $3. It's just like, oh, I won something.
Yeah.
And people get excited about that. And obviously the more you move up, and that happens with anything, as stakes get bigger, like the lower stakes tend to not matter as much. And I think we just see that with a lot of users now, that they, like Sean is the best example of, he's like, I don't care about limiteds. I don't know why anybody would play it. It's so hard. And the people who play limiteds they're having fun because they were able to get in for 30 quid, as you said.
Yeah, which is true.
Yeah. There's a question from before that I want to bring up. Do you think it's possible to get back to zero?
Like in short, yes. And I have talked about this before, I think when we were talking on a podcast once some time ago, but the money I've made from Sorare brand deals, Sorare affiliate, and my gallery valuation, I am quote unquote above zero. So as a collective, and indeed, like when I was streaming on Facebook and I had a Facebook contract, I was streaming a lot of Sorare on Facebook to get through the hours. So I can attribute like a value to that as well. So in that regard, like, yeah, as a collective on Sorare, I'm above zero. But in terms of just the actual gallery, I definitely think there is. I don't think it's possible. I know it's possible. It's just something that requires a lot of time. The question becomes is it possible to get back to zero? The question becomes, is it worth getting back to zero? Is it worth the investment of time? Or would I be better off giving that time somewhere else that would just be like offer something more for what I'm giving? Like, you know, if I took that same amount of time and put it into learning, I don't know, like stock markets or something, would I have a greater return? So I think that's the debate for me now, is like, is it worth trying, or should I just accept where I'm at and carry on playing? And if something positive changes in like an intense fashion, just enjoy that ride, but otherwise just enjoy the game. But every time I look at the gallery and like Sorare, every time I look at any player I've got that I've had for like more than the last sort of 3 to 6 months, and I'm like, oh, they were worth this much, and now they're worth this much. It just shoots those like negative emotions straight back into me, where I'm like, yeah, I'm making progress. If I just looked at just my last 6 months, I'm probably like clear in the green, but that's not the whole journey. So it's like whenever those kind of like old demons come up, I'm like, I thought I was doing good, but actually I was still not.
But is part of that your like I don't want to call it unrealistic, but do you put a time frame on it? Like if I told you, yes, you can get back to zero. I mean, obviously I don't know, but it's like, yeah, it'll take 6 years to get back to zero. Do you play, or do you just say, yeah,
no, it's not worth it. Yeah.
Even though you enjoy the game.
Yeah, no, I would probably just play it like continuously in the fashion that I am now, where it's like I set my lineups, I hope to get rewards. Like for the first time ever in the last sort of like maybe like 3 to 4 weeks. Do you know what's weird? You talk about not watching the Premier League. The MLS for me was everything. Like I love the MLS for a whole bunch of reasons. First of all, I had some of the best players at Super Rare level, which I got into like by luck, but you know, Boanga turned out to be an absolute beast. Steve Clark had one of his best years as a goalkeeper, and Hector Herrera was insane. So I'm like, this is great for me. But also like the way my life works in terms of like the time that I have as like my own personal downtime, it's usually after my work's done, which is quite time consuming, after the kids are asleep, and after I spent some like family time with Lauren and the kids. And so it gets to the point where it's like when those games start kicking off at like 12:30 in the morning or 1:30, that's perfect for me because that's where I'm like, no one's going to bother me now.
Yeah.
So I can sit down and relax. So when the MLS stopped, like if my phone buzzes now for Sorare, I couldn't care less. And but before I'd be sitting there, I'd have Sorare data open, I'd have like 20 tabs open of all the games that I'm following. I'd have my phones like on, and I'm like, when my phone buzzes from an SD notification, I was like, right, which game is it? And I'd go through my tabs. Instead of looking at the notification on the phone, I'd refresh each one and be like, be a positive, not a negative. And I'd get that like massive endorphin rush from it. And now I'm like, oh, Fenerbahce kicked off. Cool. Just don't care. And it's like I would probably play it in this manner for the rest of time, I suppose.
You being a total MLS stan now is the greatest thing that's come out of Sorare. Somebody should clip that, make it a commercial for Major League Soccer, because that's so does the excitement come back then when MLS comes back?
I think the excitement comes back. I think that like cultivating the gallery for the MLS was like really good for me and good for my like enjoyment on Sorare, because it's what I gave the most attention to, because they have the best system with like the injury reports. And like the only thing that I don't like about the MLS is like weather delays out of nowhere. It's like, yeah, I had a couple of games get cancelled and I'm like, that's genuinely killed a lineup. But that's pretty much the only stinger. You have infinite information, and like the press conferences they do are always so much more in detail than what you get in Europe. And like, obviously the fact that it's in English is really valuable. And the fact that when you start learning about how powerful home advantage is in the MLS, you can like work your lineups a lot more favorable because of that. And because of those things, I felt like I had an edge. And because I felt like I had an edge, I was enjoying what I was doing.
Yeah.
But with everything else, it's like, I wonder if like I gave that same attention to another league now, would I get back into that whole like, okay, this is great because I know I have the advantage here. And I have a viewer who has so much knowledge on, I think, the second division in France. And every time I look at his gallery, he's hitting like podiums and like threshold all the time. And he's getting massive rewards across limited, rare and super rare. And all he has in his gallery is second division French players. And then he just doesn't play Challenge Europe, Champion Europe, or under 23. And I think that's genius.
Yeah, that's... Nanzo said, so Sorare was an MLS marketing tool all along. Now their vision for the game. Are you excited for your $500,000 MLS Monthlong Competition that surely they will be doing in the spring?
I would love that, especially if Julian Gressel does join Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez into
Looks
Miami.
like it's happening.
Yeah, I'll be delighted with that. I'll have, assuming Denny Bwanga doesn't leave next season, I will have an insane super rare MLS lineup.
I appreciate the optimism for Gressel, but you have to remember that a lot of his points, his like peak scores were set piece driven, and I'm pretty sure he's not looking at Lionel Messi and be like, I got this one.
Maybe corners, but I just think like depending on how they play, like if he plays, you know, he's played like right mid a lot or like right wing a lot for Whitecaps and the Crew. I would presume that he takes like Yedlin's spot into Miami, and Yedlin is just not a great football player. And so I think, you know, Gressel bombing down that wing, passing it to Messi, who has a shot from the top of the box. I can see that sort of thing happening a lot. Like, I think he will get a lot of like attempted assists and a lot of like forward passing points that will negate him not having set pieces.
That's fair.
I'm obviously hoping that, but either way, if he plays a more advanced role, even better still.
Nice scores there.
Yeah, they are very nice. And now, like, you're not really winning divisions with him because of it. Well, not All-Star Super Rare, perhaps, anyway. But Champion America Super Rare, you are.
Yeah, I think you're wrong about that, too. You said that once. I forget who the player was now. But we were talking about somebody, and you were like, just not enough peaks. And it's like, You don't need 5 100s to win divisions.
No, you don't. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And especially at super rare level, you really don't.
Right. All right. Sorry, I'm trying to. Sorare said, "Don't you dare depump Gressel."
He's going to rule. Oh, that's 2 people that said he's going to play the right center mid role. That would be insane for his card. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, I mean, playing there. Columbus when he played was a pretty good situation anyway. But yeah, if you get to play with Messi, it's probably pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm going to go out on a limb there. Not financial advice or something like that. Sorry, I'm going back in the Chani. What's up, Chani?
What's up, Chani?
Speaking of MLS, nope, he doesn't play MLS. Now I have to give him credit for like giving up on all the summer cards because he built his Feyenoord collection.
Yeah, he did it. He did it right, didn't he? What did he win for his super rare?
You don't want to look.
Wait, what? He won 2 DMP goalkeepers.
No, just one. Was it 2 cards for that one?
Yeah.
The super rare was it's an under 23 guy who sits on the bench behind.
And then he also won another under 23 guy from Mainz who sits on the bench. That's unbelievable.
Mike said he's an amazing U23 prospect, and Jonathan said Lemons is a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, do you know when I won Jonathan Burkhart, Chani was like, oh, he's like the next big thing in German football. And now, okay, he got an injury that nobody could have predicted, but I literally didn't sell Jonathan Burkhart because of the potential he had, not what he was offering. And at the time I won him, his super rare around the same day had just sold for like £2,200. And I was like, okay, I'll hold him then. And now his last sale was like £300. And it's like, yep, like this whole they could be great. Yeah, but also they could just be shit when they've got their chance. And then that's it.
So I keep going back and forth on this because I forget what card I won recently that I was like, this guy's terrible. And Quinny was like, no, you should keep it. And I kind of always have to remember that Quinny's just a keep it guy. Like he loves keeping cards. So but the fear that we have about selling cards that could be great is so misguided because you almost have to assume that everyone will be great. Like the odds that every card that you win of a guy who's not great yet and he becomes great is so low.
Yeah.
And yet we're all just like, I can't. What if he's, and it's so detrimental. It's so detrimental. And I continue to do it, but it's like, man, because we just don't want to be wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I do that with way too many cards, or not even necessarily be great, but just wait till they hit form. I just want there was somebody I was looking at just today or yesterday, a striker, and he's been in fine form. And I'm like, oh, I really want to buy him. But then I'm like, is he just in fine form? Like, why is he in this form? What has changed? And that's where it's like that time investment comes again. It's like, now you have to start researching. Have they had a change in formation and tactics, a change in management, a change in training? Has something happened that's caused this? Has he got set pieces now? Or has he lost set pieces now, which is potentially allowing him more time in the box? What's caused that shift? Or is he just hitting a purple patch and he's going to go back to being some guy that scores 1 goal every 5 games, you know?
So I think that's what a lot of people ignore. I'm going to bring up this guy, Guarassi from Stuttgart, because he was on like this crazy run. And I think everyone during this run was like, obviously he can't keep this up forever. And he hasn't, but you almost have to make it to the total extreme of, do you think he is going to score 50 goals this year? Because that's what you're paying for when you buy after this.
Yeah.
And most people are like, of course not. That's crazy. And you're like, so what are we paying for now? And Like, you don't get these scores. You don't get to buy a card and then apply them to your scores from 3 weeks ago. And that's what always gets me, that, and they talked about it, I forget where it was, I was listening, but people are like, if you just sold your players who were in form, you'd be wildly successful.
Yeah.
But everyone is always realistically, or everybody unrealistically thinks this is just what he is now. He's just a guy who scores every game.
I've never looked at strikers the same since Sean talked about Haaland a year or so, but when he was still at Dortmund, and was like, yeah, he might score 3 goals a game. He's still not getting as many points as somebody who takes set pieces. It's just not. And I'm like, yeah, that's fair. And it's like, when you look at someone like Girassi there, in the Bundesliga specifically, you are just way better off getting some other forward. Like Harry Kane actually has a lot of good AA. Yeah, you are just better off getting Harry Kane, right? And okay, the price discrepancy is massive, so it's going to be hard to get Harry Kane. But 60 to set, like he's like Jurassi's got a few hat tricks and 2 goals and 2 assists and stuff, which really peaked him. But that's 4 decisives needed to get there. That does not happen regularly or often. So when he goes back to getting 1 decisive or maybe 2 decisives and hit 70 points, yeah, you might get your tier 4s and tier 3s from that, but you're not, like, again, unless you're at Super Rare level potentially, you're just not getting a reward that is reasonable to the expense that he's offering.
Yeah. Yep. Speaking of the Super Rare tier, Chani would like us to opine on Super Rare rewards, or the Super Rare tier rewards. He said, I feel it's so dumb that you can't win the best Super Rares in the Super Rare division. So this is going to be a bit rude, but we've known this for months, if not like years, that you cannot win the best Super Rares in the Super Rare division. And we've talked about how, like, the best Super Rares are now played in Rare Plus and haven't been playing in Rare Plus because people would rather win star rares than middling tier 1 Super Rares. And I think it's bad. Like I've always said, I think every competition should offer the best card. Like, if you finish first, you should get the best card. Not like literally the best, but you should get a star. And especially now with the 85 players in the star pool, that you should be able to win it. But I think this was a combination of, not only did he win like a tier 1, but it was like that guy shouldn't be in tier 1.
Yeah. I'm trying to look at
Chani, you're exactly right, that the extension of the star pool means that now players that used to be in tier 1 are now in are in star, and so they're not available in the Super Rare division.
So Invisible won All-Star Super Rare this past game week, and the rare that he got was worth 50% more than the Super Rare that he got. And that
was it actually, or is it just Sorare data values?
Like, yeah, Sorare data values. Yeah.
Those are always a little wonky. Super Rare values are weird.
But even like looking down the list, it's like there's just some players here that, yeah, like I don't know what with Super Rare. I actually think, again, like, so long as you stay away from premium names and premium clubs, you can build really good Super Rare teams for really cheap. And so, and when I say like really cheap relative to the Super Rare division, not relative to Sorare as a whole platform, but when you look at like some of the, like, so many times I'm like, I've got a player and they start doing good again. And like Dennis Appiah is the best one because I've had him for a year or more, maybe 2 years now. And his Super Rare is still only £293. And his scores are phenomenal for that price. Not even for that price. Like, his scores are just phenomenal. He plays for a team in a division lower than where he was last season. St. Etienne in general are doing very good. And he doesn't take set pieces, yet his AA game is really, really good. And he does have the odd yellow score, but it's really good. And I look at someone like Dennis Appiah and I'm like, first of all, why haven't I bought that Super Rare? Like, that's absurd, because that, like, I have every other version of his card except the unique, multiple of. But also, secondly, if a guy that good is £200, then I start thinking more again about, like, if you could get like a full St. Etienne Super Rare collection, not like the whole collection for the percentage bonus, and they don't even have to be from the same teams. They could just be getting that stack, I suppose, rather than the collection. there are so many games, especially because of how scoring the second division, how high scoring second division can be. There are so many games where a team like St. Etienne pops off, where you will win a tier 1 or a tier 2 that will cover the whole price of like everything you bought for that collection. And so I think when we look at like where it was for rares and limiteds beyond in previous years, I actually think super rare is the division where you can win 100% return on investment in one game week. And it's like rare, maybe you can, especially if you go for like a really cheap plate stack and put them in all-star rare and then win it. But I think super rare is like, I don't know, like I just think it's easy. It's one of those things again where I do think it's easy to win and I do nothing about it and don't work towards getting involved at all, which is what we said at the top of the show about like, I love where Channy's gallery is going because I'm like, there's just a clear path here of what he's doing. And that Feyenoord collection that he's got that's now won him what he's won here, it is inevitable that it will win him another handful of cards this season. Like they're just way too good in that division, and he's just got them now. And obviously the risk is that they move somewhere next year and they lose like the points or whatever. But you think he would yield more than enough between now and then to account for that next season?
I think the difficulty with his particular one, like the Feyenoord stack, is I'm guessing all of the players in that lineup. Like, let me see if I can find who he had. Like it was Bilo. Does he have Hartman?
Yeah, he's got Hartman, Hertrauda, Jimenez, and Timber, I believe.
So I think he is using that lineup to win, to almost guarantee winning cards not as good. Like, I don't think he can win a card that's better than what he has, which feels like a big problem. Right?
In terms of rewards, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you want to win to improve, but I suppose the way you improve is win something, sell it, and then buy something better.
Yeah. Here's the lineup.
Yeah,
I guess
man,
I guess
500 points. Jeez.
Yeah. I mean, literally every player had a decisive. That's wild.
Yeah.
And he captained the lowest scoring guy.
Yeah.
Come on, Johnny.
Yeah. How many for 2 points away? Score. Yeah, just cap Hertrauda and you're absolutely fine. Yeah.
Yeah. I know. Man, it's like people don't even watch the strategy show. Yeah, I think that who was he said in limited and rare you can win the best players on the platform, but the higher you go, the less you win. It is, yeah. And Nanzo was saying you can't even win a unique in most unique divisions. And Parapress kind of brought this up earlier that they don't even auction that many uniques. It is a weird thing that it's like they don't want to dilute the unique market with a bunch of players that shouldn't be auctioned, but you also don't really want to have too many uniques out there anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know. The unique market is a weird one. And frankly, to be honest, I considered buying that Apaya unique once. It was on the market, I remember, and thought to myself, you should own that card.
Yeah, I should, yeah. How much did his unique go for? If it was anything around like £500 or something, I'm going to be livid.
No, I don't think it was that low. Let me see if I can, because I thought
it's £1,000 it went for.
It.
There was a trade 2 months ago. Sorry. Yeah, about £1,000 there again.
Yeah, somebody listed it for 2 ETH last month, 2 months ago. But previously 1.25. That's the lowest it was listed in the last 6 months or so.
See, like even looking at his card now, his rare card is £28.
Mm-hmm.
£28. And okay, you've got 3 yellow scores in there. St. Etienne went through a barren spell. They didn't really win any games. But before and after that, he's got greens, dark greens, a 90, a 100, like 20. If he's your capped 240 guy, what is that based on? L15? Okay, maybe his L15 is a little bit high at the moment at 61. Yeah. But maybe in cap 270, that's something I wanted to ask you actually. with the Cap 270 tournament that they run last week. Did you get a loot box, and how was your experience? And did you see anyone get like a low level loot box that got a high level card out of it? I got the level ups from it.
So I saw somebody won a Veerman limited, and I don't know what place they finished in. I finished like, let me see. I got a card in mine.
Okay.
And I finished, I want to say like 4,000 something. I finished 4,234th. And I won a limited card of, what is this guy's name again? Chidozie Ogbene from Luton.
A Premier League card, nice.
Premier League card, yeah. And I saw somebody on Twitter complaining that they won like 2 limited level ups. I would have preferred the level ups. Like, I don't need this card. In fact, I entered hoping to win level ups.
Yeah.
And instead I won a card. Like, I saw the card pop up and I was like, ugh. And I also was presented with this price chart here that a month ago he was almost $20 and now he is like $3.
And do you think that is because a month ago people were buying him for the tournament and
Absolutely.
now, yeah.
Which is crazy because all I heard was people buying the cards for people playing against Luton.
Yeah.
Not for them.
That's where I actually liked the cap within that sort, like, you know, that tournament. I like the fact that it had a cap because you couldn't just put the best 5 in.
Yeah.
Right. Like, it made you think about someone like him that might have had a really low L15, could have been a super useful, like, the guy to squeeze into a few lineups here or there. But for me, like, I have the Arsenal collection and I have Neto, the goalkeeper. So I was always able to put in Raya and 4 Arsenal players and Neto and 4 other Arsenal players every time. And Arsenal haven't done great because we just can't keep a clean sheet to save our lives. But then we actually did good against Brighton. And I kid you not, Opta hate me. They just, like, they've got a guy that's like, oh, Nep's a fan of Sorare. Like, I'm just going to score all of his teams incorrectly. We had like our starting 11 didn't seem to get scored from about the 55th minute onwards beyond decisives. And I was like, there's no way. Like, I've literally seen Erdegaard make pass after pass and an interception, and his score just doesn't move. But not just his score, his passes made just didn't move. And I'm like, okay, they're just not scoring it. And then I was like, because I was obviously looking at this intensely because Erdegaard was in my Cap 240 Super Rare lineup. And then the rescore comes in and they scored us down. I'm like, we have absolutely pummeled Brighton and kept a clean sheet, and we have 1 defender with a green score. That's outrageous. Like a light, you know, 60 plus. I'm like,
yeah.
It's literally outrageous that this is the situation. Like, they have just scored it wrong. And I'm like, if there was one game week where I was like second in that Premier League tournament thing, I can't remember who we played against, and then we conceded in like the 90-something minute, and I lost, like, because I had 2 defenders and the goalkeeper, I lost like 120 points just like that, and I'm like, oh, that's killer. But no, I quite like that tournament. I like it. They definitely should do more of that.
It does seem like the reasonable path of use old cards to win new cards and use new cards to win cash.
Yeah.
Simple as that. David was saying that the guy who won Veerman finished 204th because and he got a premium box.
Oh, nice.
He scored 428.25. 428 got you to 204.
Yeah, that's mad, isn't it?
In a Cap 270 competition.
Yeah, that is mad.
Let me see what the first place got, or score-wise at least.
600.
They call this thing. No, I can't even find it. It wasn't just regular Cap 270, right?
No, it's a Premier League winter something or other.
No. It was the
reward
box one. We might not even have it actually now that I say that. Oh well. Yeah, I think it's fun.
One thing that I was blown away by is when I look at the Cap 220 month long, and I'm like, I've got some good scores here, and I'm winning a tier 5 and a tier 4, and I'm like, who the hell is winning, and what are they winning? And then you look at like the guy who's first in Cap 220 rare, and he's got a 407, a 388, a 384, and a 374. How can you be that like? And he's only 20 points ahead of second place, and it's like those scores are wild, like wild for Cap 220.
I'm looking at his 407 team, like Pele van Amersfoort with a brace.
Yeah.
I don't even know who Inigo Cordoba is, but 83 without a decisive seems pretty good too.
He's very good. I actually won him last year. He's decent.
Am I going to be able to fit this in? No. Like, who are these guys? I mean, I know who they are, but...
And his captain choice on that 407 was one of the worst. No, not one of the worst. The worst.
The worst.
Yeah, by far.
Yeah. Guys, please. Please. Captain, the highest guy.
Yeah, see, look at that. Look at that, yeah. That's crazy, isn't it?
Gulashi was a 0.
Oh, okay. Coming back, yeah. But and that's the difference, right? This is like what Gator Guy does, right? He's buying that Gulashi to put in that Cap 220 there. And now I'm looking at this guy. What does he get? What does he win for being first? A star rare. That's mad. A star rare. And then, so these are the galleries that I love to look at, because now I'm like, okay, how much is this guy's gallery worth? Like, how long has he been playing? You know, like, okay, he's actually got a reasonably high value gallery.
That's a high value for only 5 or 4 super rares.
Yeah.
Why have 1 Van de Voort when you can have 2?
Yes, indeed.
It's a lot of U23 goalies. 1, 2, 4.
Oh, he's got loads of 5% limited collections.
Of course, you went to that page.
Yeah. And he's got, I mean, he's got Jean-Luc Motors, which is insane, but he's got, again, the top teams from the divisions that they're dominant in.
That is,
as his like 5%.
This John Bach collection has 51 cards in it?
Yeah.
Come on. 51.
Yeah, it's very, they've got like just they've got so many players that have never stepped foot on the field for Jean-Luc. Like, I don't know how they ended up getting minted as cards, but they're also having like a full restructure. They're getting rid of all their Brazilians because they've been terrible.
Wow.
Yeah, I've started to, I guess they're like already linked to moving elsewhere, because I'm starting to get unsolicited bids on my Jean-Luc rare Brazilians. He'll probably win.
Like he said he finished 79th and got 3 level ups.
Wow. So I finished about 1200th, I think, and got 2 level ups, which I loved, because I'm all about that. Like, the only thing I don't like is that I can only put 3 on 1 card. So obviously it's just so much more efficient to wait until they're level 17 and then boost those last 3 levels.
Yeah.
But yeah.
For all the cards that you care about?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, well. There was I just want to get through this. There were a couple comments here from earlier about how we can't give out star uniques each week. Charlie said, but that's what happens when you buy the best. You can't win much better. So you have to win 3, 4, or 5 times to get a good ROI. Chani did this with the bottom half Dutch team. He would only need to win a half. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Buy worse cards, Chani.
Yeah. Buy worse cards, win less, but win bigger.
Yeah.
I disagree that they can't give out more uniques, more star uniques. All they have to do is apply like a coefficiency to what is deemed as a unique star versus what is deemed as a super rare star versus what is deemed as a rare star, right? Because like a unique that gets an L15 of 35 is just far more valuable than a rare that has an L15 of like 55. So if they just weight them differently, they can absolutely give out more uniques as rewards.
I can't wait for the reaction to a guy with an L15 of 35 that's considered a star unique.
or like a tier 2 for something like that. Do you know what I mean? Where you're like, okay, yeah, this is fine. Like you've now got a unique that you could probably ship off for like 200 or 300 quid to a bot straight away, or he's in your 220, 240 lineups, right? Like I remember it was when they started this collection side of things and stuff, and they gave that clear path to progression. And the truth of the matter is there is no path to progression. And I don't know if they actually want too many people to move up the divisions because there isn't enough supply for a whole bunch of people to move up. But the genuine path to progression, in my personal opinion, is the cat modes. Because you win the cash from the 240 to buy into 220 of the one above or 240 of the one above, and so on and so forth. Yeah, win progress bar, would love that.
We got it. It's the collection thing now.
It is, yeah.
That's it. I happen to be looking at the Fenerbahce score. They're up 3-2, and Dusan Tadic has 29 points.
Yeah, I realize now, I remembered whilst I was refreshing the page because they conceded a penalty, I remembered why I didn't care about this game. Like really, really didn't care. And it's because my all-star rare this game week died when Jesse Benet got injured about 3 minutes before kickoff. And then Jose Caro he dropped 3 goals.
Yeah.
And so now I hope Szymanski gets like a negative decisive.
I have 2 players in this game. Tadic is one, and the other is Majid Hosseini, who has 28.5.
Nice.
Dumb game.
Yeah.
All right, I gotta go. Thanks everyone for coming. Nep, thank you. We're going to be back with collection time only one day.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to put a date on it. I put a date on it twice, and I've had to move both of them. So I'm just not going to do it anymore. We'll be back probably in 2024 because I don't know how much I'm working next week. But thank you to everybody for joining. Please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Shout out to Quinny. And Nap, hopefully, is there like a time that you see where FC24 slows down enough where you can come back to being obsessed about Sorare?
Sort of like between now and when Team of the Year starts in like 3 or 4 weeks. And then it'll be like all guns blazing again there for like a couple of weeks. And then after, so basically like the end of January, beginning of February is when it'll be like really winding down. When I'll be back.
Hold you to that. Yeah.
Do it.
All right, cool. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you later.